Hey there, everybody. This is Brad. I hope I'm live. But yeah, I wanted to sort of pick up where I left off the last time. I sort of sent a couple. Whoops, nice recursion there. Yeah, I'm gonna pick up where I left off last time, working on the Pattern Lab website that Dan Mall and I had sort of started a little while ago. Things have been crazy for us, so we haven't had a chance to do another joint session together, but hopefully we can remedy that soon. But in the meantime, what I wanted to do is one more sort of head down dev session to sort of quickly stub out all the different pages of the site. Right now, to sort of catch you up on sort of what progress we've made, is basically Dan and I had an initial session where we got sort of the vibe of sort of some of these explorations down, and then I did a follow up session where I got this page, this sort of documentation detail page, sort of stubbed out and getting some of that styling in there and feeling decent. Now this is still early days. So there's still a lot of massaging that will likely need to happen, and so no doubt, whenever Dan and I finally find some time to do another joint session together, then we can sort of bash through some of that. But one of the other things that I wanted to do in this session, this might be a bit of a shorter session, is get all of the pages of the Pattern Lab website together so that we're able to sort of have conversations about them. So I want to set up the home page, the downloads page, the sort of documentation index page, the documentation detail page we sort of have already, as well as sort of resources, demos, and other stuff. So in essence, what I'm going to do is get this left nav working and sort of clicking through to these different pages on the website. Now, we're not going to style them or anything like that, because that's some stuff that I want to do with Dan. But at the very least, I want to get this stuff sort of present and accounted for inside of Pattern Lab. So what I'm going to do here is sort of open up my patterns folder, and you'll see that we've already created a few different templates in here. And you can see we have our home page, we have our docs index page, we have our docs detail page, and our demo gallery page. Currently, if I click on these things, it looks pretty gross. And this is because we created a page layout and we haven't actually sort of applied that page layout to these other pages. But one of the things I do want to do is just sort of cross-check with the current Pattern Lab website, just to sort of show, what pages we need to have in here. So you can see we have our documentations, our downloads, demo, which we're going to sort of blow out into a proper demos page because there's a bunch of different flavors of Pattern Lab. Get a new homepage in there, and sort of have some other stuff as well. So first order of business is I want to make sure that we have everything ready and sort of looking decent. So I'm going to get these pages to not be broken anymore. And so what we're going to do here is I'm just going to copy and paste gallery. Just going to remove our demo page header. So basically, I'm copying over all of our what I did, the work I did on the documentation detail page, over to these other pages, just so it doesn't look gross anymore. So okay, so this feels better. So here's our home page. You see our home page, and then if I click into the demos page and detail pages and the index page, so you can just see these are stubbed out and working pretty quickly. They don't exactly have any indicators as to, oh, this is a home page versus a demos page. So one of the things that we can do is I'm just going to sort of come in here and I'm going to steal this data and come into my home page, and you can see page title, and I'm going to say this is the home page. And it's going to go through and it's going to build, and you can now see this is the home page. Okay. And then sort of similarly with the demo gallery page, we do not have a demo gallery associated JSON file. And just as a refresher, basically Pattern Lab defines its default data inside of this source data folder. And this is where we can sort of define our initial data. And then at the page level, what we're doing is we're creating this page specific data that's going to override that default data. So in our demo gallery, I'm just going to give it this title. And now the page title says demo gallery instead of the default data. So I'm going to lather, rinse, repeat this for, we have our documentation detail pages already sorted out, but our documentation index page, I need to create another docs index.json and create Pattern Lab documentation. Okay. So now you can see it says Pattern Lab documentation. So now as I click into these, you could sort of see each of these pages, even though they're not really doing much of anything, there's at least an indication that these are different pages entirely. So that's great. One of the other things that we want to do now is to start wiring this up. We want to start wiring, so clicking on the Pattern Lab logo will take you to the home page, and clicking on the documentation link will take you to the documentation index page, and clicking on the demos page will take you to that. So how do we do that? In order to accomplish this, we need to sort of edit this this primary navigation thing. So we have primary navigation, and you can see the component for the primary navigation is essentially a nav tag with an unordered list, and then sort of linking through here. And I think that that's what this is. And I just want to sort of confirm. Oh, we're actually calling this tree nav. That's right, because we're using this sort of nested tree nav approach. So never mind. We will open up tree nav. Here we go. And what this does is provide some extra hooks for, sort of sub-navigation. So you can see for our documentation, we have the sub-nav, and we want that to be sort of indented. Hence the name sort of tree navigation, like you'd see on an operating system or something like that. But okay, so where are we actually defining this data? Where are we defining download, documentation, stuff like that? It should be inside of our data folder. And if I click into navigation, you'll see, yep, tree nav items. And then here's where we have our links that sort of link through to different pages, and we're sort of stubbing out and giving these things titles and all of that stuff, defining our subnav items and so on and so forth. So you can also see that we've created some URLs in here, and most of these are linking through to just hashtags right now, which is not very useful. And so here's where we want to sort of update this stuff in order to in order to actually wire up this navigation to actually click through, create sort of like a clickable prototype of the site from here. So in order to do that, we're going to use a feature called the link feature. So linking patterns together. Basically, the format looks like this. We basically change the URL to link dot whatever the thing you want to link to. So link dot pages dash docs index is what we're going to do for our documentation index page. So I'm going to sort of say docs index, and then that should match up with whatever we name our different pages. And so I'm going to sort of do that. That's going to rebuild. And I'm going to come back here. And let's see. So now clicking on documentation will link me through to the documentation index page. So that's nice. But now, oh, I actually have this working. So, okay, so clicking on the logo takes you back to the home page. Clicking on documentation now takes you to the Pattern Lab documentation page. So that's all good. So next order of business, we want to link through some of these sub pages to a documentation detail page. So let's link this one through to docs install. And I'll do that for most of these interior ones. And then I'm going to sort of link through just to show you. We have a page called short headline here, and that's to sort of show what a documentation page could look like with a short heading instead of a long sort of heading. And so just for variety's sake, I'm going to show what that looks like. This is the pseudo pattern here, this little squiggly line, tilde, that basically overrides whatever data is defined in the main JSON file. So we're just sort of overriding this short headline right now. But so what I will do is link through to short headline there, and then that's going to rebuild and reload. So now, did I name that wrong? Ah, crap. That's nice. Docs detail. What did I call this? Docs. Oh, whoops. Might help if I named the things the right way. Docs detail install. Detail install. God, I love that feature of VS Code and other editors, the multiple cursors thing. That thing is so cool. Yep, here we go. So now we're clicking through to all these pages. There's my short headline one. There's my other pages. So this is great. So now we actually have sort of more of a working prototype here, right? So this gives us the experience. And again, like we have no idea what the documentation index page is going to look like yet, or what the home page is going to look like yet, or what any of these pages are going to look like yet. We sort of have a vibe of what the the documentation detail page is going to look like. But what's cool about this is that in a couple minutes, we're able to create a clickable prototype of the entire website, right? And so what this allows us to do is, as a team, sort of be able to click through the entire experience before it even exists. So we're able to have conversations about not just individual screens, but how those screens all connect together, how they all flow together, what the relationship is, and also, if I make a change to the headline on one page, we're able to quickly sort of jump over to some other pages to see how that change impacted the entire whole. So that's pretty cool. So I'm just going to round this out a little bit. I'm gonna link through to demo gallery for the demos. I'm also going to link through to GitHub Pattern Lab for the GitHub link. I'm just going to copy in the project URL just for the sake of making it real. And so now I think what should happen is, oh, where did that link go? Why is that black? Weird. Yeah. Okay, it's not letting me, if I open this in a new window. Why is that link black? There we go. But yeah, so now I can link out to the project page. That's very curious. Let's find out why this link is black. Is it a visited link? Is that it? Oh, there we go. I probably want to change that, huh? We're going to go into our components, go into tree nav, and then we have color inherit. What do I want to do about this? Visited. I could change this to whatever I want, right? I could change this to orange if I felt like it. Whenever that goes through and rebuilds, I would hope that, yep, there we go. Shows up as orange. So that may or may not be useful. Maybe it's because I'm using this color inherit thing that is sort of messing me up here. That's interesting. Well, in any case, what do I want to do here? Color inherit? Does that work? Oh, there we go. All right, so I've overridden the visited state for our navigation links, but that's an interesting little quirk. Okay, so now we're getting into a bunch of things. I'm just going to close all of these documents out, and I'm going to reopen my. You could see that I have a few different pages that I have not accounted for yet. The download page is not created inside of Pattern Lab yet, so I need to. We have our demo gallery, we have our docs detail page, we have our docs index page, and our home page. We do not have a download page, and we do not have a resources page yet. So that's what we're going to do, is we're going to create those pages, and then that will give us a nice sort of, let's see here. And right now, I'm not sure. We're probably going to have to create some more templates. There might be an opportunity to save or to share some of those templates. But let's see here, resources.json. I copy and paste resources. And what was the other page? Oh, download. Call this download. And call this download as well. Download. So now in my navigation, I should be able to link to pages download, and then go down to resources and link to pages.resources. Okay. So click into download. Great. Now I have a download page. Click on documentation, go to the documentation index page. Click on one of the sub items in here, go to the docs detail page. That's great. Go to the resources page, the demos page, and the GitHub link. It's going to yell at me because it's inside of an iframe. Oh, weird. I think I did. Oh, I see. Huh, this visited link and color inherit. That's a nice little CSS trick, huh? Or CSS quirk, or whatever you want to call it. Subnav link, sure. We'll also call that color inherit. There you go. Okay, so cool. So again, I just want to repeat what I'm doing here. I'm really just sort of setting the stage. I'm just doing a little bit of plumbing work so that we're able to have a thoughtful conversation as a team about this navigation, but also about this entire experience, right? So what does the homepage look like? What does the download page look like? What does the resources page look like? What does the demos page look like? And so on. And so now I'm not doing anything especially crazy with these right now, but let's just go out on a limb and say we're probably not going to have uh, you know, this is the homepage, or have our normal sort of more interior page title for the homepage, right? We tend to sort of see something uh, like Pattern Lab's website, right, has this sort of special homepage, and this is true for a lot of things, right? Versus the documentation pages and so on and so forth, right? The homepage is a special beast. And we've already set up a lot of that work. So if you look at our homepage mustache file, you'll see all we're doing is including this homepage template. And the homepage template lives here. Now, if you recall earlier, I had just sort of copied and pasted this stuff all together just in order to get the basic page skeleton in place. But what I can do is I can now sort of say, use our little trick from before and say, hero, div class, FPO, and we could say, features, maybe hero with call out or something like that. And then say div class FPO, and we could say contributors, div class FPO, resources, and we'll just say demos or something like that. And then I'll switch up the orders. The contributors doesn't matter as much as this stuff. Okay. Cool. So now we have a nice little sort of IA for our homepage, right? So let's just say that that's how that's going to be. Am I doing this right? The FPO block. There we go. All right, now I have my nice little styled sort of chunky FPO callout bricks. And Dan and I covered this on our first video, which is basically, we can start with this kind of approach, right? And this gives us the opportunity as a team to talk about the information architecture of the homepage, right? To talk about the priority of the homepage, without having to actually express that in a full comp or inside of, some crazy, wireframe document. We're able to just quickly bash this out inside of the browser. And then we're able to have a conversation about that, right? So, we want, demos is more important than resources or something like that, right? We could sort of, switch those around pretty quickly. But then also we can talk about, what UI components match our sort of content patterns. Dan wrote a really great post a while ago called Content and Display Patterns, where Dan differentiates between sort of content patterns, which is things like, here's our feature list, or the features. That's content, right? That is like the content pattern that we want to sort of address. And then the idea is that we want to match the appropriate display pattern or UI pattern to best articulate those features. Currently, on the current Pattern Lab website, we have this sort of crazy, funky grid that I'm not especially happy with. But this sort of gives you a rundown of Pattern Lab's sort of feature set. Now, this content, or a good bit of it maybe, might make its way into the new site, right? And that would sort of be plugged in here. But does it have to? So even if it's the same content, let's just assume that the content is going to stay the same. but the display pattern might be very different for this design than it was for the current design. So I love Dan's thinking about this, right? That there's a difference between content patterns and display patterns. And this is why, once again, it's so incredibly important to create this separation between UI structure and then the data that gets poured into those UIs. So this is where things I think get really exciting in the form of sort of working in a tool like Pattern Lab. You're able to sort of define, here is my navigation, the actual data that goes inside of the navigation, but then sort of treat the UI component as its own little thing. And what's nice about it is obviously you get reuse out of this. If we want to use tree nav somewhere else on the site, not in the header, but maybe somewhere else, we can do so and pour in totally different content. Same thing with the page header and every other kind of UI pattern that we already have established. So I think I might stop here for now for today, just because I feel like our next steps is to sort of find some time, Dan and myself, to get together and huddle on sort of making some progress. Like, I would love to dive into maybe the homepage design with Dan this next time around, just because I feel like gets to a lot of the branding and sort of the sort of splashy and sort of directional art directed sort of stuff for the homepage, and maybe we could sink our teeth into that. But then again, just by way of doing this little exercise and getting everything sort of wired up, we're able to have some conversations about, if we make a change to the homepage, does that have a ripple effect on some of these other pages? But then we could also a cool thing that we've done in the past by doing this exercise of sort of wiring up the nav, what we're able to do is just get entire flows down, whether that's a checkout flow or a sign up flow, and very, very early in our process, get that stuff in front of users, right? We can actually sort of put a phone in their hands or direct them to a URL and say, okay, can you sign up for the service? Or, can you, what does it look like if you can't remember your password? Can you walk us through like how you would go about doing that? And very, very quickly, in a matter of minutes, we're able to sort of stitch together these crude screens, right? So it's not quite a paper prototype. It's not quite like it's not fully fleshed out. It's not super high fidelity, but at the same time, it gets at, are we structuring this? Are we structuring these flows in the right way? Do we have all the right ingredients? Do we have all the right information on the pages in order for users to know what to do? And I love that about this, right? We essentially have this fully functioning HTML prototype that we're able to get client feedback on, but also get user feedback on really early on in the process. So I'll leave it there for now, and hopefully looking forward to scheduling a session with Dan. That's one of the hard things about our work, is that we're busy running around all over the place, working on client projects together as well as sort of independently, and managing a bunch of stuff. But I know that we both are really excited to schedule another session. So hopefully we can make that happen soon. In the meantime, thank you all very much for hanging out with me, and yeah, take care.